Off of the Metropolitan Police, and what a load of old shit that was. What do you think, Chris?
I wouldn't disagree with that. I wouldn't disagree with that assessment. Seems that going backwards, Missing seems to be quite pissed off with his giving him basically homework to do. Yeah.
I mean, he was quite demanding, wasn't he? I mean, he was like, oh, what have you read? And when are you going to give us a statement on that? Which, I mean, I don't fucking know, but doesn't seem a particularly good strategy. He definitely was pissed off with him. It is one of those ones, though, where it's like, oh, watch them fight. I mean, I don't have any trust in Mitting particularly, but yeah, it was not nice to see him getting ticked off,
Yeah, I mean, it seems one way of annoying Mitting is ask him to do some work, apparently. So, I mean, it'd be the whole thing about hiring a historian, maybe the Met will do that. I mean, it'd be interesting if they could find one who will write a narrative favourable to them. It seems to be what they... I mean, it seems it's kind of a weird, undermining this Tranche 1 report that Mitting's about gonna be right before it's written, in the sense that whatever he says they don't agree with, they'll just say, oh, well, he didn't do enough homework. So
yeah, that does seem to be it. This thing of an expert historian witnesses, it's a bit of a I mean, I'm surprised they're going down that road. Really, I mean, like you say, I don't know who. I mean, they mentioned 3 names in their submissions.
I mean, one thing is that until this inquiry happened, there was virtually no primary source material for anybody to write a history. So I think it's a bit bullshit. So any historian would have to basically would be writing the history based on the documents being published in the last 2 years or so.
Yeah, and I mean the ones they did name check are people who've written extensively about MI5 and stuff like that. Which, I mean, I think it just it smacks to me of this thing which the Met have tried to do a few times of conflating the kind of work that the Special Demonstrations Squad were doing with much more serious stuff. You see it a lot with people like the Troops Out movement being conflated with the IRA and shit like that. But also, I mean, this thing about this historical context. I mean, he brought it up on 3 or 4 separate occasions that we really need to understand the historical context because, in the 70s, it was different then. Being racist and sexist and everything was just normal, and you can't possibly complain that people, that cops were like that.
But I think it's also blame shifting. I mean, implying that the fault lays in the the policy makers' boat, perhaps, as well as they've already tried to some extent in the earlier tranches to shift the blame to MI5. And they mentioned MI5 there, which Mitting, unfortunately, I think, and then wrongly, he seems to be limiting MI5's involvement in this because it is. I mean, as we said earlier, it's surprising there was what there is, but now we know how much there is. We should, we need more basically to give the fuller picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really, it's really clear. I mean, I think the motivation for Mitting seems to come back to, as we said earlier, his desire to avoid doing too much homework. Because you start opening that up, it's going to get a bigger and bigger thing. But I don't see what. I mean, how limited are we going to be if there isn't as a specific look into what the role of the MI5 was in all this? I mean, it seems to be much greater and so important, But yeah, apart from that, there wasn't much. I mean, one other thing I'd like to mention that was in the opening statement was this thing about where the tactic of using dead children's identities came from. I mean, I'm pretty sure that during the last set of hearings, we had a former undercover officer say we all went to see The Day of the Jackal and thought that was a good idea and copied it.
I don't wish to contradict you. That wasn't quite. I mean, most of them seem to refute that idea. I think there was perhaps one officer who did seem to imply that it was from The Day of the Jackal, but certainly I can't recall now the timeline whether there were people using that method prior to Day of the Jackal, which was 1972?
There wasn't. That was. I mean, that definitely came up. Yeah. I mean, like, admittedly, lots of them said no, it wasn't that. But one specific that I forget the fucking name because I'm shit with that. But the one who just gave audio evidence towards the end of the last set of hearings was very clear about it being from that. But I mean, wherever it was from, you get the impression that like the MPS is like whatever it is, it wasn't our fault, Gov. There was somebody else at fault. There's a lot of that kind of thing. But yeah, like plenty of heat, not a lot of light from that section of opening statement. Anything else you wanted to mention that happened?
I can't think of anything offhand top of my head.
Yeah, so we'll be going back live again now. So we're going to take 5 minutes before we have to start typing again. We'll be giving another reaction at the end when we get to when we hear from. Oh my God, it's Oliver Saunders next, isn't it?
Yeah. I suppose one thing to note about that is skeletons, not skeletors. As I'll stop doing that now.
No, please carry on doing the skeleton.
Anyway, but is that he? I think he went out of his way not to have a go at any submissions from the non-state participants, but rather his criticism was all aimed at the inquiry, wasn't it? I didn't hear any sort of refutation of accusations by.
Yeah. I mean, he also, one of his last lines was, "The Metropolitan Police Service will not attempt to defend the indefensible," which was like, where have you been, lads? What the fuck are you on about? You won't be doing that. That's your fucking job. Jesus Christ. I mean, if I was a senior fucking officer in the Met, I'd be like, quick, sack him. He doesn't know what he's meant to be doing. Obviously, defending the indefensible is your entire role. But so it's Oliver Saunders next, who's fucking awful. I mean, like, he's fucking awful. I mean, like in amongst a field of terrible fucking lawyers, he's possibly the worst. I mean, maybe I'm being horrible to him as a person, which I obviously am, but maybe it's more to do with the fact that he is representing the individual undercover police officers rather than him personally failing, and I don't know. I'm not convinced. Anyway, we'll be back fairly soon. We'll be tweeting through that, and then when that finishes, I don't know how long he's scheduled to go on for. I'd imagine it'd probably be the best part of an hour. We'll go live again with our reactions.